Hey everyone, it's me, Joe Saiyan. Today we are going to be doing a build video for Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra, but before we begin I need to point out a couple things. So if you don't want to listen to this intro, please hit the timestamps in the description or comments below to skip ahead. Now, I currently, at the time of recording, am a part of the Squadra Creators Program, copyright of Bird Studio, SHUEISHA, TOEI, Animation, and Bandai Namco Entertainment Incorporated. Now, with that being said, Squadra is a free-to-play MOBA game designed to be played 4v4 competitively, and I am saying that I am by no means a pro. So, I'm not a pro, MOBAs are skill-based, future updates can invalidate the builds, and moving forward, build suggestions and card suggestions and skill suggestions are all only suggestions, and you should adjust as needed based on your skill level at playing this game. Thank you for watching, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. Alright everyone, it is Squadra time again, and today we are going to be going over how to build Dabura, King of the Demon Realm, or previous king in this case. So he's actually pretty dirt easy to play to a degree. Like, honestly, he is very powerful. I'm honestly astonished how crazy he is. But let's see if I can break this down to a good baseline for you to understand the best way to utilize him. So we're going to go through the breakdown of the unit, and then we are going to go ahead and go through the build suggestions of his skills, and then we will go through the suggestions for his cards. So first off, the breakdown to go through all of his abilities as a character. So his passive is Demon's Domain. Essentially what this means is that he has a little tiny circle around him, and in that circle, he is actually petrifying you slowly but assuredly. With this, basically you get a little tiny little Dabura bar beneath your body, and once it fills up all the way, you turn to stone and he does an excessive amount of extra damage to you because you are petrified. Now his rush attack is just a normal physical attack until the third consecutive attack hits, and it actually fills the petrification gauge when you hit. Now, skill 1 is Doom's Ray, an unavoidable attack, by the way, that causes the target to explode and inflicts major damage. It fills the petrification gauge as well. It fills it by a lot. This is your main source of petrification ability, and it also will do a crap ton of damage if the enemy is already petrified. So do keep that in mind. You could almost knock out somebody with this kind of thing. Darkness Spear is basically throwing a spear at the enemy, and it increases your movement speed and step to actually approach him. And this is essentially your way to either gain on an enemy, like engage them, or to step onto them and finish them off if they're trying to run away. Now, Evil Flame, which is your skill 3, he spits a set of flames out in a direction, it applies movement speed down, and it also applies burning effect. I feel like if you applied this burning effect with like Zamasu and his little extra AoE damage, you could have some menacing kind of ability with this guy. But very, very good skill, very nice range once it's fully leveled up. Now his super / ultimate is just basically a giant ki blast. Not terrible, not bad, but it does actually increase the petrification gauge quite a bit. And with that, that's pretty much it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just make it so you understand how his abilities work. So you'll see this nice big little ring around Dabura. Notice you go under him and you go under an enemy and the little petrification gauge shows up. Yep, it's slowly going up. As long as you are next to the enemy, this is just going to go up, and eventually he will potentially be turned into stone. So the thing about this is that this just gives you the ability to turn him into stone. It doesn't auto do it. You have to actually click your left click to actually turn him to stone. Once you do this, it's pretty, he just starts taking a massive amounts of damage. Now, if you step away from him, the gauge will actually slowly start to diminish over time. So let's go ahead and take a look at his skill 1 real quick. So skill 1 is his Doom Ray. It's technically an unavoidable attack, and the reason for this is because once you get into the range, it just teleports you over there and gets him. Now notice that the petrification gauge went up really far just by using that. Not a huge amount of room. It does have a pretty long cooldown, if you can see right here. Not a lot of range. It's actually smaller than your normal range. But we got an 11-second cooldown here. And we just go ahead and do that. And do a whole crap ton of damage. It is crazy how much damage he does. Let's try it at level 2. Now, the level 2 doesn't really increase the range. Once again, it does not. But it increases the range, like, width. And it definitely still increases the petrification gauge quite a bit. You just do an absolutely bombing amount of damage when they are petrified. Let's go to level 3. So level 3, once again, not a crazy increase right here, but you can see that it does a little bit. It's mostly just the AoE. In all honesty, this skill, like, you could technically go ahead and skip it from level 1 or 2. You don't need to go at max, because the increase in here is not that crazy. It is nice if you want to freeze multiple targets, and it goes out quite a bit out behind. Because essentially what this could do would be is that you could technically go into your darkness spear if anybody else gets away from right there. And then you could evil flame. It's a huge amount of increase that you could do here. Speaking of the darkness spear, let's go ahead and test this out. So we're all the way back here. He's over there. Stab. Huge movement speed increase. Did you see that? The difference is staggering, just how quickly you can just nail them. The cooldown's pretty nice too. 6-second cooldown. Not too bad, not too bad. Just go right in on them right there. Just freeze them. Get that up there all the way, and he's dead. Super quick and easy. Let's go to level 2. See how level 2 is different. Ooh, that is a much wider range. Let's take a look at that right there from all the way over here. Whee! Oh, yeah. That is absolutely crazy. I'm honestly not even having to try right now. Let's check the range on level 3. So at level 3, you actually get 3 different spears now and a wider range and a longer range. Go ahead and do that. Now keep in mind, you don't have to be on screen to nail him with the spear. You can actually throw this off screen, and if it hits anybody, you can just have that increased speed and just go right in on them, get the skill 1 off on him, freeze him, and he's done. Petrify him, and he's done. Now let's look at his skill 3. Skill 3 is the Evil Flame, so it should technically slow down enemies. Not a huge range here at level 1. Not a huge range. Does increase it a little bit. Nice little bit of extra damage. You know, we get the Petrify in there. Yeah, good amount of extra damage there. Let's look at level 2. So at level 2, a little bit better range in all honesty. It actually seems like a whole fire breath right there. That is pretty intense. And right when the flame is just about done ticking, it actually is almost, yeah, 6-second cooldown's pretty good. That's pretty good right there. I think the real takeaway from this is that you can skill 1 and then skill 3, and you're almost guaranteed to have them petrified and have their health completely dropped. Now at skill 3 max, is a huge wide radius, very far away. Pop that, get in there, hit them. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. So already with Dabura's skill 1, 2, and 3, it doesn't even feel like he needs the Evil Blast. But let's go take a look at the Evil Blast, see how wide a range. So not too far away, not too far away. Go ahead and get a little bit closer to him. filled up the petrification gauge by half. So, and did a very large chunk of damage just at level 1. So a level 1 for the super attack is actually it goes very far. It feels like it goes very far. By the way, there probably something should be let you know of. The ability to petrify does not take into consideration of enemy like minions. This only applies to heroes. So if you want to do damage to a mini boss, then you will need your super attack in order to be able to actually like do any like real sets of damage. It's not that these attacks don't do anything. It's just like this is a very small amount of damage. This is a very small amount of damage. It's got the burning at least. And the spears don't do too much damage either. So if you really want to do some quick damage to a mini boss, you will need your super attack. Now let's try out Evil Blast at level 2, which should increase the AoE and the range. So right now this is what it looks like at level 1. And at level 2, it's a much bigger radius circle, but it doesn't go out too much further. Like you can't shoot it too far away from Dabura. Gotta be still kind of right in front of him. And I mean, it still does about roughly the same amount of damage actually. But it still petrifies pretty quickly, so that's nice. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the level 3 of this. The level 3 is a humongous radius that almost to like Spirit Bomb status. It does not increase the gauge any further. It's about the same, about roughly half to a little bit over. Let's take a look at it again. Yeah, it's about half. So it's still about the same range. It's just doing more damage and a wider radius when you use his super at level 3. So still very good move at level 3. I actually do like it. But I do have to say that I don't feel like you need it at level 3. And I don't think you need Darkness Spear at level 3. A lot of these moves essentially are all about getting up on the enemy's grill. Like you just really want to be right in front of their bloody face. Skill 1 you probably don't need to maximize, but the outward burst of damage right out the back is what we're looking at here. You see that all that out there? That's what we're looking for right there. So once again, to prove my point on the skill 1, just because I want to make sure people understand, when you use this, there's only there's like almost nothing that comes out the back end of that. And at level 2, just a little bit more comes out the back end right there. But at level 3, there's just a huge radius right out the back. And that's primarily what we're looking for. So you might be, some people are going to argue with me, and that's fine. Once again, it's all up to you as a player and how you want to play. But I feel like a large portion of the time when we're fighting, in team fights especially, people are ganging up on each other or right next to each other. This is a good way to get all of the enemies past the tank and just petrify all of them while your ally is supporting you. It is just it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing, I feel. And given that the skill 1 does the biggest amount of increase on the petrification gauge, I do feel like it's kind of almost necessary to get it at level 3. Once again, entirely based on player preference. So don't feel like it's mandatory, just that it does help out quite a bit, in my opinion. Now, helpers wise for Dabura, I probably would have to say Nail and World King are the best options. You don't really want to use Botamo because Botamo is pushing enemies away. You don't want to push enemies away. You want them right up next to you. You want to cuddle them. World King has a nice little area of attack increase, and Nail is just increasing the amount of damage you're going to do inevitably with your rush attack. So I feel like Nail and World King are your best bets, but you know, some people do strategically use Botamo to actually protect the tower and place that there and don't necessarily go over to the tower. So you're going to have instances where if you place Botama on a tower and enemies are going at it, but they're getting pushed back every single time, you can have Dabura just sitting there right there as they're just stupidly trying to force push themselves into there, and you're just petrifying them. So there are instances you can use Botamo, but I think the majority of the time people are going to want to use World King and Nail. Now let's go ahead and move on to the skill suggestions. So skill suggestions wise, I do have a couple different builds here. I have I think literally two. I have two builds. So this first build is not taking into consideration of really the super attack. The super attack is the last thing that you go off with this build. And then with this build, you're going with the level 2 to 3 to apply the most amount of petrification possible. And then level 4 with a little bit of spear there to get up on them. Afterwards, you go to level 5 to get just a little bit more of that range in there. Level 6 with the Spear of Flame. Honestly, you could arguably say that you should go level 5 into your skill 3 of the Flame Cannon. And then level 6 go into your level 1. That I could totally understand. But regardless, at level 2, then you go have a little bit more range with your spear to catch enemies that are trying to run away. But then at level 8, I really want that extra amount of range when you use the skill 1 to either kill enemies that have been petrified, like right away, that extra damage is just crazy, or to petrify them sooner. Either way, this is really what I want, petrification. And then level 9 to apply some burning damage to enemies running away, or just get some extra dot damage. And then at level 10, I could say you could easily replace 10 with your super on the spear volley. The spear volley isn't necessary. It's nice, it helps, and I do feel like it's situational, so you could actually go into your super at level 10 instead. And I actually, thinking about it now, might be best if you do go into your super instead of it. But Dabura is a character that doesn't absolutely need to go into his super. He operates very fine with just his base skills. But that is why there is two different builds. If you want to go into two different builds, I would actually suggest basically the same thing, focusing on skill 1 and skill 3 primarily, a little bit of skill 2. But once you hit level 7, then start going into your super, because it does do a good amount of damage, and does fill the petrification gauge. And then once again, maxing out skill 1 at level 8, and then putting another node into skill, into your super skill. Now at this point of the game, you would have a level 3 skill 1, you would have a level 2 skill 3 with the flame cannon, and a level 2 super. I think this right here is so much pressure already, just at mid-game point, that it would be pretty crazy. So at level 10, getting the spear in there just to put more pressure on enemies that are running away, and then 11 with the flame cannon to just have a huge increase. I would say you can flip-flop 10 and 11. I think that'd be totally fine. And then finish off your super attack with at level 12 or 11 even. One of these two is what you really want to go for. The 10, 11, 12 is kind of like that point of the game where you can change your strategy and go with the flow. People got to understand, this is a MOBA. This is not what you're going to follow 100% of the time. This is a building block of where you want to kind of start off going and pivot based on how the fight is going. And with Dabura, honestly, he's pretty easy mode, if I have to say. Could just be a skill issue with me. But anyways, let's just go ahead and move on to the card suggestions. Card suggestions are pretty straightforward. I'm not going to lie. I don't really have too many areas to really go here with you. Either the default build of a super snowball along with a barrier. The barrier saves him on instances where he gets caught and he hasn't petrified the enemy right away. And then, of course, limit breaking jump. Just a good default build. Otherwise, I really do think it's just snowball, giant slayer mixed with pursuer. You're always going to be using pursuer, that extra speed boost, the extra damage. You're going to be utilizing skill 1, 2, and 3 constantly between each other. It's just a no-brainer to be using pursuer. I can't really suggest anything else. I really can't. He is a damage-based attacker. He's really up in your face. You really want the damage in there. A little bit of survivability with the barrier is probably the best bet that you can really do. I do think that there could be a couple cards in the level 3. Like maybe you could replace limit breaking jump with defensive step if you so wish. Get a little bit of extra defense there with that solid barrier. But otherwise, I don't think I'd really suggest anything else. He doesn't need the strategic escape. He shouldn't need the build-up. The snowballs should be rolling pretty quickly. So, but anyways, I think that's probably going to be it for his build. Alright, thanks you for watching this video. Please do let me know your suggestions for skills and cards down below in the comments. You never know when an update's going to change a character, and it's always good that you give your own personal suggestions to help each other out and really just kind of push, you know, different builds and suggestions, of course, because this is a skill-based competitive game. Strategies are going to change constantly, so do discuss below civilly, of course. And thank you for watching. And I hope you all have a good day and a good night.